Hello, Setters. As Dakota people, today is just one of those days that we know can happen, but we're scrambling to make plans today. Obviously, in the church, today is a significant day in the church, is Ash Wednesday. And so here at Westside, we've decided that we're not going to let this go entirely. I was supposed to be there this evening with you, and we thought we would record this for you to be able to have a devotion still on Ash Wednesday. So welcome, and I hope that this is, as we begin the season of Lent, that this is a meaningful time of year for you. So the question that comes up often on Ash Wednesday or around the season of Lent is, what are you giving up for Lent, right? We look at things in our lives, and we hear people say, well, I'm going to give up chocolate or ice cream or, those kinds of things. And that's all good and fine. The invitation into Lent historically for the church has been a time of kind of self-reflection and a time to kind of be penitent, if you want to go back to an actual historical understanding. But this question comes up of what does Ash Wednesday mean for us, and then what does the season of Lent? So on Ash Wednesday, we gather as the church, and what we recognize is that we are dead in our sin, that there's nothing that we can do to save ourselves. And we recognize the mortality of our sinfulness, and that we're all going to die. And that's the curse of sin on the world. But as people of God, we live in a hope. We live in a promise that's bigger than that, right? This is not where God leaves us. And that while we confess this mortality, from dust we came and to dust we will return. We hear this, at graveside liturgies and during funerals and those kinds of things. But we live in the certainty of a promise. And this is what I love about our tradition, is that we actually know a certainty that comes in Jesus Christ. So the season of Lent, often we take pause from the normal routines of church, and sometimes, youth activities change, or confirmation changes, or adult Bible study changes, those kinds of things. And we're kind of invited into a different process sometimes, and not always. But what it does for us is gives us time to pause and be a little bit more reflective on what God is doing in our lives. We often talk about the need to kind of recognize some of that parts of our lives of where we don't trust God and where we struggle with things of faith. We recognize that we may have doubts in our consciences. And God, invites us into kind of a reflection on that in a way that it opens us again to His Word. And His Word is a promise that comes to us, and that even though, through the season of Lent, we say that, we're working this process, we do get to celebrate that Christ did come and actually accomplished all of this for us. And that's a promise that we can live in every day, that when you have doubts or fears or things come up in your life that are unpredictable, like snowstorms in the middle of this important part of our season, that, again, that God is present in all of those things, and that God invites us into the relationship with Him, that we live in that confidence, we live in that certainty. And so the thing that I have been thinking about is what I'm giving up for Lent this year. But what I invite you to give up this year is believing the devil's lies. When the devil tries to convince you that God is not present, or that God is not with you in things, God promises to be with us in all things. And that's a promise that we can live in complete certainty. And there's times that we're going to ebb and flow in that. So give up believing the devil's lies today. Give up the doubts. Give up stealing back your sins that have been forgiven in Jesus Christ. He promises that He has taken those things from you, and that they no longer exist. He doesn't remember them. It's not like, He takes them from you and then holds you accountable to them. No, He doesn't even remember them, is what we're told. And so that is the great promise of today, of Ash Wednesday and the season of Lent, is that in Jesus Christ we have new life. And every time we hear this word, every time we hear this promise, that's exactly what He calls us to, is to remember that. So that when we have doubts, when we have fears, when we have things that we are burdened by, that Christ speaks into that, and that we trust in His promise fully. Westsiders, I hope that wherever you are today, you are warm, you are safe, but above all, know that you are God's people, and that on this Ash Wednesday, that you would remember this, that you would know with certainty that Christ is for you. Have a blessed day.